The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC Limited, has announced a profit after tax of 5.4 trillion naira and 45.1 trillion naira in revenue for 2024. The company says the results provide a solid base for its push to rehabilitate refineries and scale up crude output as it works to strengthen energy supply and cut reliance on fuel imports. For more on this, Victor Eromosele, Chairman and CEO, ME Consulting Limited, joins us now. Good morning, Mr. Eromosele. Great to have you here on the morning show.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Excellent. I mean, first of all, we've seen the numbers with regards to the profit after tax by NNPC. It's been a good year. I'm sure you'd agree with me on that one. Can you just give us just your own take on the numbers that have come forth from these profit after tax?
Okay. As a former CFO, I'm wearing my CFO cap and looking closely at the numbers. The first thing I did in terms of analysis was actually trying to convert these numbers to dollars. The reason why I'm converting these numbers to dollars is the very fact that we all know what has happened to the naira in the periods we're looking at. And if you look at it in dollars, you'll find that the top line, instead of that 45 trillion, is actually $31.1 billion. The bottom line, instead of 5.4, it was actually $3.7 billion. And then the other reason why I did that was I wanted to look at it compared to the previous year, using different, so that they are all on the same, as well as being able to compare it with other international companies. Don't forget that NNPC seeks to be a globally competitive energy company. And so you've got to compare. And so who are those I'm going to compare NNPC with? I've taken two. Chevron, because of the two, obviously smaller than ExxonMobil in America. And then I took another national oil company, in this case Eni of Italy, to see how they fared and to see who was more efficient. Not just at the top numbers. The NNPC's top number is 31 billion. If you checked that of Chevron, it was 193 billion top line. Eni was 98.7 billion. But look at the bottom line. While NNPC's bottom line is 3.7 billion, that of Chevron is 17 billion, and that of Eni is 6 billion. But if you compare the bottom line with the top line, which is the margin, what do you find? You find a situation where NNPC, for example, is at 11.8%, while Eni is at 6%, and Chevron at 9%. So if you ask, of the three, who did better? Clearly, you'll see that NNPC did better. So from that perspective of efficiency, financial efficiency, we will say that NNPC had superior profit margins. Another thing I looked at was their asset growth. Everybody say, oh, sweat the assets. So how have they grown the assets? Is it growing fast? 56% growth in total assets. What about the other thing, investors? Because everybody say, oh, why don't we have NNPC in the stock exchange? Of course, I will be the first to put my money in there. What was the return on capital employed? And the number is 28%. And that is quite healthy, from 23% the previous year. So we can clearly say, looking at the superficial parameters, NNPC actually did well.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm glad you make reference to superficial parameters because, many people are saying, well, this was expected, so should it be celebrated? You make reference to Chevron, Eni, and so forth, who have been able to do that sustainably. Now, most analysts are saying, well, this is with regards to, these numbers reflect a forex gain. Of course, they also reflect the subsidy removal. this was an expected outcome, but can it be a sustainable outcome, especially given that there's the projection or the goal of trying to reach 2 million barrels per day for 2020 by 2027? We saw, what has transpired this year with us trying to achieve that goal, not just through NNPC, but as a nation. So my first question is, how sustainable is that? Because many people are saying that these numbers are really just a reflection of other developments that have happened in the ecosystem, and not so much because NNPC is more efficient or doing anything incredibly better strategically.
Okay, I don't know about your last line, whether I will agree with the last line, whether they were doing anything better.
That's up to
One
you,
thing we could say is that the plane is no longer on the runway. The plane has taken off. If you listen to BB Ojelari, the group CEO, I quote him, he talks about positive momentum. When you think about planes, you think about speed, and then you think about altitude. And then vision, you think about direction. Make sure you land at the right airport. So one thing we can say is that NNPC, if NNPC, for example, when it was a corporation, it was on the runway. Now, definitely, it's no longer on the runway, it's in the air flying. So that's all. Is there anything to be celebrated? Yes, it's something to be celebrated. I still remember there were times in the 90s, I can tell you that, when NNPC never even had financials, let alone something to look at. So clearly, it's no more on the runway, it is flying. So from that perspective, you may want to celebrate. But if I had a student, you say, oh, you came 10th. I say, no, somebody came first. You can see that relative to internationals, that is where the benchmark is. We've been able to discount out the Forex, and that's why we're looking at dollars. And if you did a little comparison, you actually see that even in dollar terms, that actually there was a drop in 2024 than in 2023. But it was not peculiar to NNPC.
Oil prices, yeah.
Why was that? That was because oil prices, average oil price in 2023 was 80 barrels a day. Today, who knows the oil price? 61, 62. And last year, in 2024, it was hovering around the 70s. So it's trending downwards. So when you have headwinds, we're on the plane. So how fast can you go? So as I say, he's talking about positive momentum. I like the expression, but how high are you flying and how fast are you flying?
Okay.
But we're glad that we are flying.
Okay, Mr. Eromosele, I see you have a lot of information.
Yes.
After all, you run a Center for Petroleum Information, which is a think tank. Let me start by congratulating you on the publication of this book.
Thank you very much.
Energy Insight Nigeria, Volume 2, a review of half a decade.
Thank you.
Well, it will be interesting to see what you have to say. But, about jubilation, I don't know. Many people will disagree with you, whether NNPC is in the air, it has left the tarmac or whatever. There will be points of agreement.
Of course.
Let's talk about cash calls. Now, can you explain the difference between the old practice and what is new, and whether NNPC is truly currently meeting its payables?
I've analyzed the financials to an extent. From what I can see, they have a capacity to meet its payable. The first thing you look at is to say, hey, between your current asset and your current liability, which is more? If your current liabilities are more than your current assets, you are not doing well. In the case of NNPC, the current assets by far exceeds. And actually, I compared that of 2023 with 2024. In 2023, they were nearly at par. In 2024, the assets have actually grown higher, so which means that it's actually in a very good position to meet all its debt obligations based on the audited financials. That is something we can clearly say. But the only problem I have personally is that financials world-class financials should be published before the half year. In other words, between March and June. And here we are in what month?
December. Oh, well, November. Going to December.
Okay, you should. Okay.
I'm already in dirty December.
You're already in December mode. So clearly from that, but I found out, hey, what happened? Okay, there was a change in systems. They were installing new accounting systems and so on. But the fact that it's published at all in the same year, it's an improvement. But I can say it is not yet Uhuru.
All right. Okay, thank you so
very
much.
much, sir.